This is heavy.
Loaf.
Yeah,
Thanks
man.
for coming to hang, man.
How's it going?
It's going pretty good for Saturday. Yeah. Your shop is on 41st Street, Sanctuary Cycles.
Yep.
You're right down from the recycling plant that just
Yeah.
Yeah.
caught on fire. Did y'all hear
What
about
the
that?
hell? Yeah.
Yeah, that shit was gnarly.
Were you there or anything?
No, I wasn't there. It was in the evening. I had already gone home from work. And, we have like a dojo group chat. And, guys were like, hey, man, did you know the recycling plant's burning down right now? And we're like, what? Is the dojo okay? They're like, yeah, it's fun. It's like up the block.
Yeah.
But it was raging. Like, I don't know what happened. That place is stacked, like, to the top with cardboard. I don't know if some of the kids over in the hood were, like, firing off fireworks in the middle of the night or something, or in the afternoon. Because I hear them doing that all the time. I mean, you hear gunshots, too. But,
Well, they do
fireworks.
donuts right there at that intersection
Oh,
all the time. There was a show over there that night, and there's a Hunter Lawrence. He's got photos. They, like, stepped outside for a smoke break.
Yeah.
And he's just like, there's flames behind him. And they're
The sky's orange.
yeah.
It was gnarly, man. I woke up the next day and saw it on my phone. They were reporting about it. I was like, oh, damn, that sucks. And then,
Yeah, it was still smoking yesterday.
dude, I
Like,
drove
still
by.
smoldering.
Yeah, like
Dang.
24 hours later, I drove by, and they still had the fire trucks out there blasting it with water. And
Oh, yeah.
so I'm sure it was a raging inferno, enough to, like, and, like, that steel roof had, like, caved in, so.
Well, my main concern, so I got a notification that the power was out at the shop, and I was like, oh, great. Like, it melted the power lines, which I'm pretty sure it did. And, but, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock in the morning, I got another notification that they got the power on. So I was like, all right. So, yeah, I went to work the next day.
Dang.
While my wife went and played hooky out on the lake.
And what does your wife do?
She is a hairstylist. She's like born and raised Birmingham, and she's been a hairstylist here since she was 16. And, she does that super funky color kind of stuff.
Yeah, okay.
Because she used to be in the punk rock scene here and all that kind of stuff. So.
Yeah, you mentioned you played in some bands and,
Yeah.
and stuff. Anything anybody?
Probably
I
not.
would've heard of?
I was in a bunch of punk bands in Florida, punk and metal. Disrespect was the main one. Like, we toured all over Florida and stuff like that. Then there was another band called Dredge and Target America, and lots of bands down there that were in this. This was in Gainesville, Florida, which is like a university town, and there was a really good punk scene there. So that was fun to cut my teeth on that in my youth.
Did you grow up in Florida, I guess?
For probably like a quarter of my life. I'm 47, so yeah.
Good chunk of time. Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Well, dude, well, I want to say thank you for all the work that you did on my Harley.
Oh, absolutely.
It's because of you that I think I've referenced you probably 100 times on the show
About
already.
every episode.
Every episode,
you
yeah.
got that bike back?
Well, I go like, yeah, I got my Harley running, and then I have to stop myself, and I'm like,
Like,
no,
wait
no,
a
no,
minute.
Loaf got my Harley running.
Right.
So,
Man.
hopefully you didn't have to do too much to it, but it's been running like a champ, dude. It's been
Good.
fun, and it's kind of stoked my. I hadn't ridden, before that in a while. I think
Yeah.
I kind of freaked you out a little bit when I came to pick it up. You're like, are you sure?
That's
told
why
that
when
story a
she
couple
got
times.
home, I was like, dude.
Yeah.
Like, well, that happens to me a lot. Like, I don't know how experienced people are with their bikes and whatnot, because, people buy them and it's not running, and they're like, hey, can you make this work for me? And, I'm like, okay. And figure it out. I get it running, and then I'm like, how much experience? Well, I had a Honda when I was like 17. I'm like, oh, great.
I used to ride dirt bikes back in the day.
Exactly. Well, like, I cut my teeth on dirt bikes. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just, yeah, it can be kind of scary sometimes, like not
Sure.
knowing people's experience level or whatever.
But yeah, when I came to pick up my bike, I was a little nervous.
You should have
to
seen it
get
when we delivered it on its side.
Yeah.
Oh, man, that broke my heart.
Dude, that was
I
crushing.
was like, and you guys left it on its side for the trip too, and I was like,
No.
No,
it had it just happened.
It had happened twice, and we had stood it back up. And then, so, like, your shop is here.
Yeah.
We had turned at that red light to pull in behind your shop.
Yeah.
It fell then.
Oh man.
Literally in your parking lot.
Oh, that sucks.
But it's a miracle we even got it. I know we've told the story, but it was a miracle we even got it to your shop. We picked it up from the house, and I drove it to Trustful and left it on the trailer.
Yeah.
at my parents' place. And once I got in touch with you and you were like, yeah, bring it, then we went and picked it up. And on that trip, that's when all hell broke loose. The trailer came off the hitch, and
Held
we
on
almost
by-
lost it on 59, and then it fell over then. And I'm just glad it wasn't like in pieces all down the highway.
It could have been
Right.
so much worse.
Yeah. It sounds like it. No,
And
you
then-
got a couple dings.
Yeah.
It
But
only
gives you
sucks because the
character.
paint was so nice, man.
Yeah.
I was like,
Yeah, it was a drag, but
funny. Like about a month later, I had a customer come into my shop and saw your bike sitting there. He's like, "What year is that?" And I can't remember what year. I think yours is like a
88.
88. Okay, so it's like an anniversary edition.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he's like, "I've got that exact same motorcycle." I'm like, "Yeah, okay." And he's like, "No, really?" And he starts pulling up pictures. Sure enough, looked just like your bike. Different handlebars, like someone swapped out the handlebars.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, Evos are good. Like my soft toe up there is an Evo. I dig
Yeah.
it. The chopper I'm building at the dojo is an Evo.
well, it's been reliable so far. Knock
Yeah.
on wood. Yeah, I'm sure at some point I'm going to have some issues just because, it's probably the first time it's really been ridden this past few weeks, and
Well, I had pretty
20
low miles,
years.
right?
Yeah, it's only got like 11,000 miles on it or something like that. So I'm sure the engine's.
So really, all you got to worry about is the stuff that, I mean, I guess electrical.
Yeah,
That's pretty old electrical. That's usually the biggest pain in the ass on the older bikes.
yeah. I'll keep an eye on it. I'm sure as soon as I have my first problem and I can't figure it out, I'll be messaging you. Hey, what's wrong? What do I do?
You just have a dead battery. It's all good.
Yeah. Well, dude. Yeah. So let's talk about your shop, man.
Yeah.
You kind of stick to the older bikes.
Yep. I tried to stay to carbureted and earlier. So early twin cams, like I'll work on them. I really don't like to, but pretty much Evos and shovel heads and Sportsters are like my bread and butter. I get the occasional panhead, stuff like that. So a lot of vapor blasting for the older stuff for other people because it helps. Like if you're going to go weld up cracks or something like that,
Yeah.
it gets it nice and clean. But yeah, been there in Avondale for 3 years now,
Okay.
and I was at my home shop in Mount Olive before that, which is up in Gardendale area.
How'd you get into doing this type of work, or just get into bikes in general? I guess.
So got my first motorcycle when I was 9 years old. My dad was into bikes. My uncle, my grandfather, my uncles and my grandfather on my mom's side were like the old school bikers that you think of,
Sure.
And my dad had a Honda CB350 was the first bike I remember him having, like metallic orange, chrome, like it was just a little put around bike. But I remember it like distinctly from when I was a little kid because I'd come out there when he'd roll in the front yard and he'd be like, "Don't touch it, it's hot." And like, I don't know, I had to have been 2.5, and I walked up and put my hands right on the shiniest part of the exhaust pipe and like burnt the crap out of both of my hands.
Dude.
And he's like, "I fucking told you not to touch it." I was like, "Ah."
You'll never do that again.
Yeah, but no, I did not ever do that again. So yeah, he got trying to think. His next bike was like a Suzuki GS 950 or something like that, which was like something you'd see in a Mad Max movie.
Okay.
Like one of those Japanese almost crotch rockets, but still look like a cruiser kind of.
Okay.
And that was the first bike I ever rode on the back on and went like 98 miles an hour or something
Holy
like
crap.
that. Like he torqued it up. And
Yeah. Scared the crap out of you, or you were like,
Yeah.
yes.
So, and then I got into dirt bikes. He was a phone man, and he would do, odd jobs on the weekends to like put extra money in his pocket. And he went and hooked up this guy's phone system, and the guy, like, he was eyeballing this Yamaha that was in this guy's garage. He's like, "Would you consider selling that?" He's like, "Man, $25." And he's like, "Really?" And he's like, "Yeah." So he bought this Yamaha Twin Star 200. It was a little like street bike, and he brought it home. He was like, here's a motorcycle, and we got it running. Like, just put a battery in it and gas and stuff like that. And I lived in like 13 acres in the middle of nowhere, Florida at the time. So I rode that thing like it was a damn dirt bike, and heavy little bike, but it was fun. And then, I moved into like a YZ80, which started.
YZ80, is that a Yamaha?
That's a Yamaha.
I had that bike. Yeah,
that's a race bike.
Yeah.
So I started racing motocross when
I didn't race. I just rode around in the back 40 of our.
Well,
yeah,
we had a motocross park down there in Gainesville called Gatorback, which was built into a lime rock quarry.
Really?
So it's super cool. Like, you take off, you go out, and you do a couple of long, quick turns, and then you drop down into this lime rock quarry. And I mean, it's like 2.5 stories. It's so fucking gnarly.
Yeah.
And people hit the sand in the bottom of the quarry, and they bottom out, and they friggin' tangle up and fall all over the place and stuff. And then you're battling around inside of the quarry, and then you come up out, and along all of the fill dirt that they piled on top of the quarry, they made the rest of the motocross track. So there was like triple jumps and
damn, that sounds sick.
It's still there. Like, they still do races at Gatorback.
Oh wow.
But
So somebody saw a giant hole in the ground. It was like motocross course.
Yeah,
This will work.
There's literally there used to be like every now and then someone would go over the fence and their bike would go down into the quarry.
Ooh.
So they would keep like this truck down there with a long tow thing and
Just
like
to fetch
fish bikes
Yeah.
out. So yeah. Anyway, so motocross in my youth and had dirt bikes for most of my younger years, and then when I got 15 or 16, I think I went and got my first motorcycle license. So in Florida at that time, if you had a motorcycle and you were 15 years old, you could go up there and get it.
I think Alabama's the same way.
Yeah.
Yeah. I begged my dad to let me get my motorcycle license at 15. He wouldn't let me do
I
it.
thought you did though.
No.
Didn't you used to ride that to school?
No, I never did. By the time I really got into it, I was I didn't get the Shadow until I was like 19, so I was out of high school.
Damn,
I got
I
my
thought
first
it was-
motorcycle. Yeah. But my dad, he rode bikes and stuff, and he was like, "Yeah, 15 years old, you know, I could let you ride a motorcycle. You need some experience behind the wheel of a car and learn how to drive first, and then yeah."
Well,
It's everybody else you got to worry about.
I'm from that like latchkey kid era.
Okay.
So like both of my parents worked. They divorced really young. So they were gone most of the time. We'd come home off of school and just get into whatever, and
Still, to have a bike at 15, the freedom, man, to be able to like go do stuff.
Yeah.
Like all I had was my skateboard. It's the only way to get around.
before that I was stealing my dad's girlfriend's car at like 13 years old and
Oh, dang.
driving it to the corner store and stuff, and freaking wrecked it one time and tried to play it off like she did it.
Ooh, I did not do this.
I'm like, no, she must have came home drunk, Dad. Like,
So, moving on, getting into when did you start?
oh, wrenching.
Yeah.
So, the first time I seized up an engine when I was racing. So I was probably 12 or 13 years old, and was in a motocross, and freaking my engine just went, and I got back and couldn't race anymore that day because obviously I didn't have a whole I wasn't like sponsored or anything like that. It was
Sure.
just all out of pocket.
Yeah.
And went home, and I was super bummed. My dad's like, "No, you get to build it now." I'm like, oh, great, And I'd worked on like mowers with him and stuff like. So I guess from my dad taught me mechanics. He was a jack of all trades, but he was a helicopter mechanic in Vietnam.
Oh, dude,
On
that's pretty rad.
the USS New Orleans, which was a Navy aircraft carrier at the time. I'm pretty sure it's long retired now. But yeah, so he taught me mechanics and, how to avoid police. all that good stuff you need to learn in America.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I started wrenching back then when I was really young, and have always done that. Like, I try to maintain my own vehicles as much as possible, even though I have a truck at Boozer's right now, but it has me stumped and it has him stumped too. So nah.
Well,
Like,
Austin said he's like a genius when it comes to like engines and stuff. So
Yeah.
I'm sure he'll get it figured out.
yeah, I know they will. I appreciate everybody around here. I love Birmingham. I've lived all over the U.S.
Really.
Like, I'm originally from Michigan, moved to Florida, Georgia, Florida, Alabama, Virginia, Mississippi, back to
Wow,
Alabama. Like, I've lived all over the place. And then little stints in, like, Tennessee or whatnot, like when I was a little squatter punk, like doing dumb shit.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, all over the Southeast. Southeast is great, but I really dig Birmingham. Like, it reminds me of Atlanta when I was in like high school. Not quite overpopulated yet.
Yeah.
But when the Olympics hit over there, it just got crazy. So.
Yeah, I like that. I like that Birmingham isn't quite. Anytime we go to Atlanta, I'm just like, dude, this is kind of like sensory overload, man.
Yeah.
You know, it's just
when I left Atlanta, I worked probably 15 miles from my work. It took me an hour and a half to get there, an hour and a half to get back.
Dude,
it was ridiculous. So, yeah, I was very happy to get out of there.
Did you have aspirations at a young age to like, man, I want to make a career out of tooling on bikes and being involved in motorcycles, or did you?
Not bikes specifically, but I kind of always knew. So my dad really instilled that you should have a trade to fall back on no matter what. Like, chase your dreams, cool, but like if being a tattoo artist doesn't work out, have something else that you can fall back on or whatever.
Yeah.
So that's what I did.
Okay.
Like, I've worked in food industry. I've been a tattoo artist. I've played in bands. I've been a criminal. Like, it's just,
Yeah.
But yeah, I got older. Had been working for cities like, Montgomery or Meridian. Like in Meridian, Mississippi, I was a school bus mechanic. In Montgomery, I was, just kind of like a motor pool guy. Like, I'd work on whatever.
It's whatever came in the door.
If it was a backhoe, if it was a mower, like if it was a damn Ford F-150, like just whatever came in, like you had to be able to work on.
Yeah.
So after doing that for as long as I did, I got tired of putting all that money in other people's pockets, and I've always liked motorcycles, and I got pretty hard into Harleys. Probably 2007, 2008-ish. Like, I was starting to really get into them. And living down in Montgomery, went and got an Ironhead from some guy in the middle of nowhere, Georgia. Now, this is before smartphones and all that kind of stuff. Well, I guess maybe it's not before smartphones. Did we have those in 2006?
We had the early versions.
Dumb smartphones.
Yeah, I think it was just texting and stuff at the time.
Yeah.
So there were still payphones to be found, like in rural Georgia anyway.
It was like a Craigslist ad or something?
It was a Craigslist ad for this Ironhead, and this guy does not want me to come to his house. I'm like, okay,
I gotta meet you in a public place.
Like, in bumfuck nowhere, like middle Georgia, at this convenience store, like a Little Champ or something like that. And, I'm like, all right. Estimated time for my arrival, according to my stupid little Garmin GPS, is 2:15 or whatever. Will you be there? And he's like, yeah, I'll be there. So I get there. It's like 2:15, 2:30, 2:45. I'm like, shit, this guy's not going to show up.
Oh, damn. And
I go inside, get some change, go to the payphone, and I call, and his wife answers. And she's like, oh, he's on his way. I'm like, all right. And by the time I get off the phone with her, I hear, I'm like, hey, it runs. He
wrote it.
Over here.
That's cool.
So he rode over, and he's like, if you can give me, it was like $1,800 or something like that. And he's like, if you hand me the money, you can go ride around on it and then come back, and, we can finish the deal. So you can, hide it or whatever.
Okay.
So I went and got on it, and I ripped around on it a little bit and, shipped it through all the gears. It wasn't puking oil everywhere. It was a 1982 Ironhead. So not kickstart anymore, but I think that was the first year they started putting them in an Evo-style frame, too. Anyway, so we did the deal, took it home. I rode it like that for maybe 2 days, and I started pulling shit off. And it's just like, that doesn't look right. Pull that off. That fender's too long. Cut it short. Those forks are too short. Make them long. Just throwing shit at it and seeing what stuck. And that bike probably went through fucking, oh, man, like 10 different versions.
Yeah.
Like, that was my first, real chopper. I did rigid struts, and then I cut the ass end off of it, and then I welded a rear end onto it that was rigid, and, so on and so forth, until I eventually got to a bike which ended up getting put in Cycle Source magazine.
Oh, wow, dude.
And,
That's big time, man.
Yeah, Roadside Marty was like, so Second Dixie Roundup, which was an event that Larry Pierce used to throw here in Birmingham.
Yeah.
Is chopper event. So
Where was it held?
Well, this one was at a place called, I think it was called like 29 Dreams or something like that at the time.
Oh yeah,
It's
up
up
there,
on that curvy
up on that curvy road.
I'm terrible with names of areas and roads and shit like that.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
But yeah, it's a cool like campground, bar, restaurant. Like,
yeah,
it was cool, man. Like that's where we had the Second Dixie Roundup at. And I rode my bike into there, and Roadside Marty, who's well known in the chopper scene, like pulled me over and was like, "Dude, I gotta talk to you later. Blah blah blah. I want to, do an interview about your bike and whatnot." I'm like, "All right, cool, man." So, anyways, fast forward, that got put in Cycle Source magazine. My buddy Custom Jeff took pictures of it, and that kind of really stoked me on doing motorcycle
sure,
stuff.
yeah.
But I still had a family to feed and everything like that, so I stuck with my regular job and just did bike shit on the side. And then when I moved here from Mississippi, after I divorced my wife from then, moved here with my new wife, who lived here already. And
so I guess you were just coming to Birmingham, Alabama, just to hang out and had friends here and stuff. But you didn't live here at the time. When you did that
correct.
bike.
I lived so. When I first met like the Birmingham crew, I was living in Montgomery at the time.
Okay.
And I'd come up for the first Dixie Roundup. So let me backtrack a little bit. Custom Jeff I had met prior to that. I was on the Sportster Chopper forum. That's called Quad Cam Bastards.
Okay.
And it was just like people that really were into fucking chopping Sportsters. Anyway. And Custom Jeff was on there, and we met through that. And then we met in person, and then he told me about the Dixie Roundup deal, so I came up for that. And that's when I met all the Haints boys. And that was at Larry's first shop over in Pelham. And that was a rad fucking party. There was good music, a bunch of cool people. I met so many people then. I met the Lead Sled guys, and there were so many people here from out of town. There were some of the Brave Town guys from Chicago there. It was just a good time.
I don't know who any of these people are, but that sounds cool.
No.
Lead Sled dudes and Brave Town boys. Yeah.
I figured since like Dwayne and Nick had been on here, I'm pretty sure they had talked about.
I'm sure they did. Yeah, it's a big community and stuff. I know. Yeah.
But yeah, so that's how I started coming to Birmingham, and I just dug it. Like Montgomery's a toilet. Like I'm not a fan of Montgomery. And I lived there for like 8 years with my first wife. Then we moved to Meridian, then we got divorced, and then I moved to Birmingham. So, yeah, having come to Birmingham plenty of times and visited people and hung out, I decided it was probably a good place. Like,
yeah.
Because I went from Montgomery, which was toilet, compared to Birmingham, and then I went to Meridian, which was sewer compared to toilet. Like, dude.
Meridian? Yeah, I haven't spent a lot of time in Meridian.
No one does. It's a gas stop. It's literally a gas stop. There's no reason to live there. But
sorry for all the people who live in Meridian.
Yeah.
No disrespect.
Yeah, my ex-wife worked for the power companies, so in like Alabama Power and Mississippi Power, they're all like related.
Yeah.
So you can
okay.
it's all Southern company.
Yeah.
You can move within. So yeah, when we got divorced, I was like, I'm moving to Birmingham, getting married, blah blah blah. If you don't want to have a custody fight, bring the kids and get a job here. So she did, and I did, and it's been good. I dig Birmingham.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So you said you had a shop in Gardendale before your shop in Avondale? And when did you kind of get that off the ground?
2018 or 19. I'd have to look at my LLC papers. That's when I officially formed as a business.
I've had it working on lawnmowers. I'm starting my own
totally.
shop. Yeah.
I was like, I'm done. I went and got but I was going to do it all on the up and up. I went and got all my business licenses, all that stuff. So Mount Olive is technically county, but our neighborhood was like, nuts to butts with the border of Gardendale. So they got, Gardendale taxes and Gardendale, police come through there, all that kind of stuff.
Sure.
So after being there for, I think, a year and a half, 18 months, something, I don't know, I got a letter from the city of Gardendale saying that, approved list of businesses that can be run out of your homes in Gardendale. So, and motorcycle mechanics was not anywhere
one
on
of
that
them.
list.
Okay, so you're just kind of doing it out of where you lived, I guess.
Yeah, well,
Okay.
I had a separate shop from my house.
I got you. Okay.
It was probably a 1,400 square foot shop. The spot I'm in right now is 2,200. So a lot less space, but
Yeah, dude, the shop you're in now is, it's wall to wall with bikes and parts and
Yeah.
all that stuff. I couldn't imagine working in a smaller shop.
yeah, and I probably should have a bigger spot. Well, technically I do because I have that spot and then I have my personal shit at the dojo.
Dojo, yeah.
So
So they kicked you out of your home. It's like, you can't,
Or kicked you out of your.
so I never went and fought it or contested it or anything like that. I was just like, okay, so they've got this rule saying pretty much the only thing you'd have for a home business was like home office or daycare. Like you couldn't do no welding, no mechanics, no electrical, machining, like any of that kind of stuff as a business for profit from your house. So I decided to start looking around I was looking at warehouse spots all over the place. And that one next to Tom Sound came up, and I went and talked to him, and the price was reasonable. And he didn't want like a super long lease. It was like a 2-year lease or something like that. And, made that happen.
Mm-hmm. When you opened your shop over
Yeah.
on next to Tom Sound, that's a cool spot.
That's
dude.
what I was gonna say. That's
It
such
was
a
a
rad
good spot. It's hard to find a place to have a motorcycle shop down here. You wouldn't think it as many buildings as are not being used, that have garage doors, that U-Haul place. I'm always eyeballing that U-Haul place that's on First Avenue. It's like less than a block up for me.
It's like there's nothing there
There's
anymore,
nothing.
right?
Yeah.
What are they doing with it?
It's just a building sitting there with a nice big parking lot and several bays. But
Is that the one you looked at?
I looked at all of them. I've looked at every building in this damn town.
Yeah.
I need a space.
It doesn't help the developers are snatching and grabbing in the industrial district.
Yep.
I hate that shit. I want to see other people doing the like-minded stuff around me. But it's good. We've got that right now. Like between my shop and everything, all the way down to the end where Boozers is. Like it's so neat that we've got so many like friends in between there.
Yeah, that
are
is
all
cool.
doing different stuff. And if I need aluminum TIG welded, I can take it to someone like just down the road. If I need someone to, expand an exhaust pipe or whatever, like all that kind of stuff. Like it's real close. We've got steel distributors like right there on the block with Pesco. It just makes life easier to have all that shit. Just, I'm not spending an hour and a half of my day going to get what I need. Like I'm spending 10 minutes,
That's awesome.
So,
That's cool, man. Right there on the Powell Avenue. When we had Austin here, I guess that was 2 weeks ago.
yeah.
He after we got done recording, we rode by the dojo, and he kind of showed me everything, and it was cool. I could spot Nick's spot pretty. His was so neat and tidy, and I was like, "That's got to be Nick's right there." And then everybody else's was just all over the place. But yeah, that's cool. So you kind of keep all your personal stuff at the dojo, and just
between the dojo and my house.
yeah.
Usually whatever current personal project is going on is sitting at the dojo, and then I'll have my my bad boys usually with me wherever I am.
Yeah.
So if I'm at home, that's where he is.
So you said you're currently working on a bike, but you got the dojo. What are you doing? And what is it?
It's an Evo chopper. The engine is a bastard engine. It's like a 1989 bottom end and a 1999 top end. So bottom breather bottom and top breather top, which I don't know if you guys know how Harleys work, but they vent to atmosphere.
Okay.
The pressure in the crankcase, the extra pressure that comes from, a running engine vents either out through the crankcase or through the breather bolts in the heads. And depending on what year it was, it'll have one of those designs or the other.
Okay, here's a question for you.
Yeah.
Mine, I replaced the air filter. Took the stock one off, and there was a hose that came out of the bottom of the crankcase.
Yep, that's your breather hose.
That's routed to the air filter, but it was outside of the filter, like where the filter element is. So inside the case, but outside of the element where it's actually breathing air into the carb, there's just this hose into the bottom of it.
Yeah.
And I was, I've got it sitting over there, I can show you, but I was like, what the heck is this hose? And the new filter I bought is just like, it didn't have a spot for it or anything.
Gotcha.
And so I was asking a bunch of people, because I don't know, to answer your question, I don't know much about Harleys. I was like, what is this? And is this important? And I think my father-in-law was finally like, yeah, I think it's just like a vent. Like,
yeah, it's
just
the
point it
bottom end
down or
vent, yeah.
get water in it or anything.
You point it down and let it, drip on the ground. Your engine will sump when it's sat for a while. Mm-hmm. Like you'll get oil in the bottom end. So when you do that first start after it's sitting for a little while, it'll puke oil out.
Yeah, you get a little bit of drip, but nothing major, man. I've been surprised. My bike hasn't leaked or
when I
anything.
first started it, it had
oh, we did.
it was like a quart and a half. It was like
It's been sitting for a while.
all over my lift, and I'm like, yeah, I knew that was gonna happen.
Damn.
I had a tray there, but it overshot the tray by like a foot and a half, and just like, wow. But that's the majority of bikes I get in, they sump. Because usually it's, something happened while they're riding. They don't know what to do to fix it. And so they let it sit, and they're thinking about it. And then when they get money in their pocket, they're like, hey, can I get this fixed?
It's been sitting there for 6 months or however long. Yeah.
I mean, who knows?
So who are I guess it's just word of mouth. How are you, finding your clients?
When I was up there?
Or just anywhere, like in general?
Yeah, word of mouth.
Just word of mouth?
Yeah.
That's how you found out.
Yeah,
Through,
Shout out to, Dwayne and Nick. We're like, Loaf's the guy. Give him a call.
Yeah, that's how, that and Instagram, that's about it. Like,
Okay.
I really don't, I'm not a huge fan of social media. I get on there to follow my homies,
Yeah.
And I try to post stuff. I know I'm not regular at all. It's probably like every 2 months I post something. But just to keep my name out there and try to keep it valid, you know. But yeah, word of mouth. I guess Google search, because people like motorcycle repair Birmingham. And usually what happens is someone calls Harley, and they tell them a wait time or a price or whatever, and they get, oh, wow, that's a lot of money. And so they start shopping around, trying to find a better deal. And while I am probably less than Harley, it's,
Well, speaking from experience, I thought your prices were very reasonable.
Yeah.
I was actually surprised when you gave me the total after the work you'd done on mine. I was like, okay, I was expecting, I don't know what I was expecting.
Gotcha.
But
Up my charges. All right.
Yeah,
Dude,
definitely. That's
well, it's been hard because, so my first year there, man, I was busy. I was slammed all year long. COVID, when it happened, didn't really affect me at all, and I was allowed to go to work. I wasn't one of those industries that was shut down or anything like that. But post-COVID, shipping has been eating my ass. Like, it's pissing me off so bad because the stuff that I was getting in a day, for whatever fucking reason, it's taken 3 days to get to me, or 4 days or whatever, and it's really frustrating. I'll go look and track a shipment or whatever, and it'll say, FedEx has your package sitting in I don't know, Butte, Utah or whatever for 2 days.
Yeah.
Like, why is it sitting at that center for that long? Like, just move the shit along, man. Like,
dude, it drives us crazy. We've been ordering some stuff off Amazon, and you look at the tracking, they'll ship it to Georgia, then back up to Tennessee, then back to Georgia.
Yeah.
Then, and it's like, what are you doing? Just come straight down.
FedEx is notorious for that. They'll come through Birmingham with your package and then keep going.
Just keep going.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
But yeah, it's been good there in Avondale. I dig it. It's a good spot. I'll probably stick around there for a while. Unless I just get burnt out on working on other people's bikes and do my own stuff. Whatever.
Well, that's cool, man. And how big is it? Just you that runs
man.
the shop? You don't have any anybody wrenching with you?
No, I've tried, man. No one wants to work for a living.
Okay.
No, it's not so much that. It's okay. So when I learned motorcycle mechanics per se, so I was a full-time mechanic with the city of Montgomery at the time, and there was a shop down there that had an old gray beard dude who was a really good wrench. And his name was Brother John, and I used to go over there on my lunches and sit there and hang out, and he would, give me shit to do, whether it was sweeping the floor or, pulling a tire off or whatever,
Just to learn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I asked him, I was like, look, I want to learn this, from someone who's obviously done it for a while. And he's like, you come every chance you get, and I'll teach you what you need to know. So after work, I would come over there and spend 3 or 4 hours there and head home. And like, I had new babies at the time, and I had to deal with them and my wife and all that stuff. And but I did that for a couple of years, and he taught me a shit ton. Between that and my dad, and just experience in general, touching stuff that has a motor in it.
Yeah.
And then all the city jobs I had and all that stuff. So yeah, I'm 47, so technically I've been turning wrenches since I was like 12.
Oh, dude.
So 35 years.
So how is business these days?
That's good.
That's awesome.
Like, I can't plan, so apparently the guys at Harley have figured out that I exist, and so they send me everything they don't want to work on, which is a lot of stuff. Harley doesn't want to work on anything that's like more than 5 or 6 years old,
Which works out great for you because you don't want to work on anything. And why is
but there's
that?
all these guys stuck in the middle, like
really?
the early twin cam to late twin cam guys. Like, they can't find, like, Harley doesn't want to work on their shit. I don't want to work on their shit. Because you need a computer to talk to a lot of that stuff. And I've never wanted to get into that side of things. Like, if I can't pull the mechanical piece off that is helping it to work, I don't want to deal with that part, So if it's something I got to plug into and be like, yo, bro, like, why are your fuel sending units not, working properly? Or whatever it is, fuel injectors, not fuel sending units. But, I mean, hell, who knows? A Milwaukee 8 could have a fuel sending unit.
So is there a specific year where a lot of that changed that you kind of is your cutoff? Or you just kind of feel it out whenever somebody calls?
No, I'll work on fuel injected stuff. I know how to do it. It's the fuel mapping stuff that you need the computer for. So, like, say the factory sets it a certain way to work with the factory's exhaust and the factory's air cleaner. So most people, when they go buy a motorcycle, they're like, I want to change stuff up.
Sure.
First, easiest things to change up are going to be like controls, handlebars, that kind of thing. But then there's the air cleaner and the exhaust. And now on a carburetor bike, while you do have to still readjust the carburetor and rejet it and everything like that, that's no problem. Anybody can do that. But when you have a fuel injected bike, therein lies the problem of you have a computer that has a pre-mapped setup for the fuel to be delivered. And that has to be changed when you change air cleaners and exhaust.
I guess I I just slapped a new air cleaner on mine and it cranked and I was like, okay, cool. All right, I'm ready to go.
Yeah, it's okay. I mean, you try it. If you start having like all sorts of weird issues, then hey, more than likely something.
The air to fuel ratio is off.
Either it's getting way too much air and something's not, something needs to be a little bit more restricted or whatever. But typically,
that was literally like the first thing I did. Dude, I want to put a new air filter on here, man.
And those, like a factory one, it'll be like
it's giant.
It's giant because of EPA, and I don't want to get into
the
government and all their different entities that like really don't need to be in on anybody's business, honestly.
Well, that's rad that business is good and stuff like that, and I guess that helps. Harley probably too much work, honestly.
I turn down stuff constantly, and I feel bad for like the Japanese bike guys because it's hard to find. If it's not a crotch rocket, it's hard to find someone to work on like a V65 Magna or whatever, like a Honda Magna, something like that. I used to refer him to. There was a place up in Fultondale called Scott Cycle, but I guess he's closed. I don't know. Like COVID happened, and then his building's still there, but I don't ever see him.
Yeah. Man. Well, when you're not wrenching on bikes, I know you guys take trips and go on rides and stuff. And I was curious. You guys took a recent trip. I saw y'all posting on social media about Dwayne's birthday. Y'all took a big ride.
Oh, yeah.
But tell me about that, man, because it seemed like you guys ran into a handful of issues.
No, we ran into one friggin' ultra mega Satan pothole.
Satan pothole.
Like, so... had been a great day. We're all like, everybody was feeling it. We were having a really
where
good
were y'all
ride.
Going? Just to
oh man, you would ask me. Blue Creek, I want to say. Blue Creek Campground,
Okay.
I think is what they called it.
So a bunch of dudes going on a.
Somewhere kind of towards Tuscaloosa, I want to say. Like, so the
just
joke with
follow
Loaf is I was born with no fucking compass. I could get lost.
I just followed the crowd.
There are literally stories of me getting lost in parking lots in friggin' Tennessee. Like, I couldn't find my way out. I'm sitting there doing, like, finally.
What the fuck?
Well, you know those Walmart ones where they kind of wrap around the backside of the building and they'll go out like this or whatever? Yeah. But anyway.
It's bad design. It's not your fault.
Yeah. So, our original idea was we were going to go to Mount Cheehaw. That was the original plan. But everybody was like, oh, shit, Talladega's this weekend. And then everybody started freaking out about Talladega. And, you know, it's a good thing to freak out because it usually really jacks up traffic and then packs the campgrounds. Mm-hmm. So we had to think of alternatives, and someone came up with Blue Creek. It sounded good. You know, it kind of bypassed us around all the Talladega bullshit. You know, we rode for a good long ways, and we stopped at this river bar and sat and drank and talked shit on the porch and enjoyed the sunny day. And high school, like, hijacked a paddle boat and went and paddled out in the river and back. And, you know, it was just a good time. So we go to leave that place to start getting to the campsite, which was probably another 40, 50 miles away or whatever, if I recall. And even though we were on the same road we came in on, we went the opposite direction. And, you know, we're feeling good. We've just been drinking. We're jamming. And, you know, I see some of the guys up at the front of that. There's 20 of us. So it wasn't like a little group. Some of the guys up at the front of the pack are juking back and forth. And I'm not thinking much about it. And Scotty hits this pothole. Bam! He pulls over almost immediately. Then Brunson was right in front of me. He hit the pothole, and he had pulled over. And I was, like, trying to figure out what to do. I think only my front wheel dropped in it. I'm really not 100% sure because we were kind of jamming. And pulled over and looked and bent the shit out of my front rim.
Oh, dang.
Bent both of Brunson's rims. Bent one of Scotty's rims, and his rear tire impacted so hard it put the side of the rim through the side of the tire. Shit. And like put like a 3-inch gash in the side of his tire. So we had 3 bikes down from one freaking pothole.
Dude.
But 2 of us were able to limp him to the campsite, and that was me and Brunson. Scotty's, we flagged down a local dude and had him, you know, let us put it in his truck, and, you know, Scotty rode in the back of the truck with him to the campsite. And
so you can still ride on a dented rim, I guess. Is it just wobble like crazy?
It wobbles like crazy. It bounces. So my bike has a Springer front end too, which accentuates all of that kind of stuff. And so I'm sitting here riding with a bent front rim. Brunson's got front and rear bent. And we're both just like, you know, all right, we're going for it, you know, because our tires didn't blow because it was an inner tube. But the reason why Scotty's blew is because it was a mag. There's no inner tube. Well, it blew because it punched it through the side of the fucking tire.
Yeah.
But
that's a big impact, man.
Dude.
That's crazy.
Yeah. I mean, that thing was probably 8 inches deep.
It's crazy
on the hard side that we hit.
No one got
my handlebars got moved a good bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we rode to the campsite. We're all like, all right, we'll figure it out. And we started partying, and we hung out there. We had given this kid Tanner beer money, like $500 beer money. So he showed up with 300 beers and no freaking ice.
Oh, dude.
Drink it down.
Well, then our other buddy Dan came up with ice later on in the evening. So we actually were able to keep most of them cold. But yeah, it was a good time, man. And then I rode all the way back home on that den. Me and Brunson both. All the way back home, all the way back to Birmingham. From where we were, it was like
30 miles an hour, just like.
I actually got up to like 70 something.
Oh,
like,
dude!
When I'm in the mood to get home, like that's when I'm just
care.
like I really don't like. Oh, you got to stop and pee. See ya. You know, I'm going.
Mm-hmm.
But that rarely happens. That's usually after a really long trip, like going to Mexico or some shit like that.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
I guess you've ridden to Mexico, so
that
sounds pretty rad.
From California, I rode into Mexico. Actually, this weekend I was supposed to be doing it again because EDR is like right now this weekend, El Diablo Run.
Oh yeah, I've been watching
And
YouTube videos about that.
yeah,
And stuff. It's pretty cool.
That's from Temecula, California, which is Southern California, like San Diego area, and down into the Baja Peninsula to the end destination is a little sea town called San Felipe, which is on the Sea of Cortez. And it's super fucking fun.
It sounds awesome.
That area of Mexico is awesome. Like, the people are totally chill. No one's in a damn hurry. Like, so the place I stayed down there, the lady that ran like the little restaurant bar thing, I think her name was like Marisol. She was totally awesome. But, my wife and I went in there and we're like, hey, can we get, we're ordering food, we're ordering some burgers and stuff like that and some beers. She's like, yeah, okay, I'm going to go to the store and get the stuff I need to make this. You just sit and drink and just keep your empty beer bottles on the table so I can count them up at the end. So, like, no one's, like, keeping an eye on you, making sure you're not robbing them blind.
Oh, wow.
Like,
yeah.
I'm sitting here, I had, like...
Super laid back.
I had, like, 6 Coronas stacked in front of me, and my wife had a bunch of margaritas and stuff, and, yeah, it was a good time.
That sounds so rad.
That sounds awesome.
And coolest bikes, and...
it's like an event, though. It's like huge.
Dude. There was like an outlaw club from Tijuana that had they literally brought hookers to the event.
Whoa.
And like people are like, okay, if you want to get, that, go see these guys.
Pimping out the.
Everybody's walking around drinking like these pineapples full of fucking rum and shit. And oh man, it was just fun.
That's awesome.
The hilarious thing is, so we got there on like a Wednesday. It doesn't officially start till like Friday.
You guys ride out to California and then go
Yeah.
out? Yeah.
Well, no. So my wife and I, we put our bikes in the back of my truck, and we jammed out to California. I think it took us 2 days roughly with both of us driving, maybe 2.5. I don't remember.
It's a gnarly drive in
Dude.
2 days.
Yeah, we were booking.
I did it in 3. I was like,
2 days. Good
I'll never
night.
do it again.
Yeah, it might have been 3. She'd correct me if she was here. She has better memory than I do. I've done way too many things that affect your brain. So, but it might have been 3. Anyway, but so yeah, we got to California, and we went and hooked up with the Biltwell guys at their place. They let us keep our truck there. We offloaded our bikes, loaded up all of our gear. Actually, I had one bike at the time because she rode on the back. That was before she started
I was about
riding.
to ask. Yeah, that's rad.
Yeah.
And you're still able to get, I guess, all your gear and stuff on there. And
I asked
Pack it
way
down.
too much of that Dyna. That so that was a 1999 Dyna that really had no business with me and my wife and our 100 pounds of shit on the back. It was squatting so hard.
fender rubs a little bit every.
And all the dudes out in California are all like these friggin' high performance FXRs with like crazy suspension and stuff like that. And they're like, all right, we're going to jam through the mountains and we'll take this road pretty much all the way there or whatever. And they're going through these mountain twisties just like,
leaned over.
yeah. And I'm trying to keep up on like with this pig of a Dyna and my wife and everything else on it. And it's like bottoming out like crazy. So a Dyna drivetrain, the transmission and engine are connected and the swing arm goes through the transmission. And everything's rubber mounted. So it flexes like a son of a bitch. So because of me trying to keep up with those guys and like bottoming out, I would notice my electrical flashing, like when I'd bottom out.
Yeah.
So it was torquing the driveline so much that it ended up causing my rotor and stator to touch. That is your charging system. So it flexed so much it caused that to like ground out. So I rode all the way to Mexico on that battery, having no idea that my charging system wasn't charging anymore.
Damn.
We literally crossed into Mexicali, Mexico, and stopped at this taco joint. And when I went to go start it back up, it did not start.
Just nothing.
It was nothing. And so this dude that was there with us, who was from Tijuana and had like family in the area we were at, started calling all these dudes. And within like an hour, man, these 2 Mexican dudes rolled up with the same kind of battery.
Oh, they just got you a new battery. Wow.
Yeah, they brought batteries. And I was like, well, I don't know who to buy one from, but here, here's 10 million pesos or whatever it is, I can't remember the ratio.
10
but.
million pesos.
And I sat there and put the battery in on the sidewalk, and I was like, all right, this should get me to San Felipe, which it did. And when I got to San Felipe, after we checked into our place and got settled, I went and borrowed a jump box from my buddy, and put it on my bike, jumped it off, rode into town, got a battery charger and a voltmeter, and took it back to the little place I was staying and
Just keep it on the charger in between.
kept it on
rides.
the charger, and I checked to make sure what was wrong, and that's when I figured out my stator had shit the bed.
That's what I was going to ask. What is that process of elimination to figure out that's what had happened?
You have, in your charging system, you have your battery. You have a stator and a rotor. The stator is stationary up against the crankcase of the engine, and the rotor sits on your main crank and spins, and that's what creates electricity. And then there's also a voltage regulator.
Gotcha.
The way to test to see if that is grounded or not, you unplug the connection between the voltage regulator and the stator and put the hot pin of your voltmeter into that, and then the other one on a ground on the vehicle. And if you turn it on, you get a buzzing sound like for continuity. Then you know it's grounded out. If it does not buzz, then their charging system should be intact. It could be the voltage regulator. So anyways,
I'd be like, what the hell? What happened?
So I disconnected all the lights and just had it running straight battery for starting only.
Yeah.
And rode it around Mexico for the 3 or 4 days I was there like that, and rode it all the way back to California like that. And it was so funny because all these guys that we'd run down with, they were like freaking out, like, man, Loaf, you don't need to ride it back. Like, there's a chase truck. It's got a trailer. I'm like, I rode the motherfucker into Mexico, man. I'm going to ride it out of Mexico.
Yeah.
It's running. Like,
Yeah.
it's not running.
I don't need
like,
a headlight.
if it turns into a not running situation, then I'll put it on the fucking trailer. So, rode it back out of Mexico, and we took a different way. So, I don't remember what city we crossed in through Mexicali on the way in. And when we came out through Tecate. And it was crazy because, so we're in Mexico the whole time. It's warm, it's hot, desert, all that shit. And when we're going to leave, like up getting to Tecate, there's like mountain roads. And like you're high up and it's fucking cold. We're all like digging out hoodies out of the bottom of our bags and putting on gloves. And it actually started like kind of like frosty rain. Ooh. Like, and so got down off the mountains, got to the border crossing, and then back into California. And I wasn't back in California for an hour before I got a phone call from the Built-Wall guys telling me that the guys from 47 Industries, who are up in New Jersey, have broken down on the mountain pass in California. Like, the panhead, one of the guys was riding, the lifters backed out or something like that. Like, the screws came out and catastrophic shit happened. Damn. And they're on this mountain pass, and supposedly it's fucking snowing, and they're like freezing their ass off. I was literally the first guy back into California, so they're like, hey, man, can you get in your truck and go and get these guys? And I was like, I was exhausted. I'd been on a bike for like 8 hours at that time.
Bro, really?
My wife's like, if it was you, I'm like, I know, I'm getting in the fucking truck.
I'm going.
So I got in the truck. I grabbed food real quick, gassed up, and jammed back down to the mountains. And like, I got the weirdest vertigo I've ever had driving through as soon as the sun went down, because I just had my headlights, So like, I was like tripping driving through these mountains. Like, I don't know what got me there, but I finally got to where they were. And these poor guys are literally on the side of the road with a tarp wrapped around them. And there's like sideways sleet happening on this part of the mountain. Like, it's only this one little chunk, but that's where they broke down at.
Oh my gosh.
And we loaded the bike up. I was like, hey, the rest of you guys can get in, like, we'll just come back for your bikes. And they're like, we're not leaving our motorcycles. So everybody else rode in the freezing cold down off the mountain while I had the one guy's bike. And we got back to California. And, they were very thankful because they had like an 8 a.m. flight to catch or something like that. They had shipped their bikes out, flew out from Jersey, and then they were shipping their bikes back and flying back too. So, So anyways, El Diablo Run's fun. And I would be there this weekend if I wasn't,
doing this podcast.
No.
Yeah.
A dad of too many people. Well, so we're all planning on going to Born Free over in California next month.
Okay.
For Nick, Sport Nick.
I think he posted something the other day.
Like, we're all trying to. I don't know if I'll be able to swing it or not, but I'm really making an effort because, that's a big deal.
Yeah, Born Free's crazy.
Yeah.
Now, Dwayne got invited to something. He was like an invited builder. Didn't he take a bike somewhere?
Yeah, he was at Mama Tried, I think it was. Was it Mama Tried? I want to say it was Mama Tried. Either that or Fuel. I get those mixed up because they're both in kind of the. But I believe it was Mama Tried.
Whatever bike he's got, like the Hank logo on the tank, he like fabbed up the letters.
Dude,
and
that
stuff.
thing's sick.
Pretty cool. Yeah,
That's such a cool bike. I love those guys, man. They're all like. They're good people, you know. They all are very interested in the same thing. Like we're all kind of similar backgrounds. Almost all of us have skateboarded at some point in time. Almost all of us have, you know, been into punk music or, you know, gotten in trouble with the law or whatever. And we're all kind of doing things that are good for us now. And we've got families and houses, but we're still like building choppers and pushing each other. And, you know, it's a good thing.
that's awesome.
So I get all kinds of inspiration from those dudes. Like the first time I met them, I had broken the kickstand on that shitbox Ironhead when I got to the first Dixie Roundup. So I was like BMX style,
Like leaning
it up against stuff. And I'm there at the party or whatever, and I had met Nick that day, and I was like, "Yo, man, do you think you could weld this kickstand back up for me?" It's like, I can try. And it turns out the kickstand was really shitty, like pot metal, which is super porous. So you can't really weld it. Yeah. He tried, and then...
so what does it do when you try to weld metal like that?
It just pops and spits, and you don't get any good... Like, yeah, it's not like good drawn steel. It's pot metal. It's shit. And I don't know if just so that wasn't the actual leg of the kickstand. It was the pivot point that was like a sleeve on the leg. And I don't know if it was just that part that was pot metal, and then they kind of welded it to the other. But anyways, one of the tabs off of it broke. It was not able to be reinstalled. So I ended up riding around the whole rest of the night, just BMX leaning it up against the wall and everything.
Why are you parked way over there? That's the only place I could find where.
Well, it was so funny when it happened because I was sitting there talking to somebody and I was looking over and I could see where my bike was, and it was just like
you caught it right before it fell.
No, it was doing it super slow. Like I'm like, why is my bike like moving on its own? And then I was sitting there thinking, oh, it's just hot. The pavement's like squishing down or whatever. And then I walked over there, and like by the time I got there, it went boom,
just fell over.
And I was like, well, shit.
Dang.
But
yeah, I hear when you know, you have problems like that on the road or anywhere, you know, it makes for good stories and it's always like a good time and stuff. Oh.
Yeah, I think that's half of it when you're doing these nice rides. You know, people breaking down. Not that breaking down is super fun. Like we prefer to have everybody kind of dialed in before we take off for a ride. But there's always that one guy. You know, like always. There's always that one guy that, you know, his shit's questionable. Everybody knows it's questionable. But we're like, fuck it, you know, he seems to be stoked to run it, so, you know, go for it, man. You know, and sometimes that guy's a boat anchor.
Well, you run all these older style bikes, you know, like panheads and shovels and all that stuff. And like I said, I don't know a ton about Harley engines or anything like that, but I know they're fun to work on and cool, and they got the rad factor and stuff. But when you try to take a really long trip, you know, it's like inevitable that something's going to break, something's going to happen.
Yep, it's bound to happen.
Just have to be ready for that.
Whether it's a flat tire or blowing like a belt or a chain or something like that, or hitting a pothole and ruining your rim. I mean, there's so many things that could happen. Hell, Nick hit a fucking deer.
Oh, yeah. I forgot about that. He came to the skate park. I saw him up there one day, and he was in a boot. I was like, were you up here skating and hurt yourself? Or he was like, no, I hit a deer. I want to get him back on to talk about that.
He turned that into a T-shirt, didn't he?
Yes.
I think so.
Yeah, I have one of the Deer Slayer T-shirts.
Yeah, Deer Slayer. That was it.
Oh, that's so
It
scary.
says something like, get them before they get you, or something like that. And it's awesome.
Oh, it was so good.
Yeah, that was on my mind. We were riding around. You know, my parents live up in like Clay, Alabama. It's close to Trussville and stuff, and a lot of cool windy back roads. And me and my other friend Nick went and rode, and that was just, for whatever reason, I was just like, man, what would I do if something just jumped out in front of me right now? You can't react. There's really nothing you can do. I mean, you can try to keep an eye out. My buddy Randy, his dad hit a Great Dane like 100 yards from his house one time, and, like threw him off the bike, and
that would really
that was gnarly.
So I worked at Honda in Virginia Beach for a little while, and one of the gnarliest things I ever saw is this guy had a Gold Wing, and he was up in the northern part, like Shenandoah's of Virginia, which there's shit tons of deer there. And he hit one going like 65 miles an hour on this freaking Goldwing, which is essentially like a small car,
Yeah.
you know?
It's got the fairing and all that stuff on
And
front.
it like betwixt the deer. Like it split it in half. There was so much gore
Oh my god.
going down the
my
sides
gosh,
of like
dude.
it was like embedded. Like there was like little bone fragments and all sorts of nasty.
Oh, he brought it to you guys.
Like,
Hey, could y'all
yeah,
clean
he
this
brought
up?
it to the Honda dealership, and like I wasn't like a mechanic there. I just kind of helped putting stuff together, like all the new bike assembly.
Yeah.
But like the lead mechanic was like, "Come look at this shit."
Dude,
It was gnarly. It was gnarly. I was like, "Gosh, I can't imagine hitting a deer hard enough to split it in half." And,
What do? You just keep going.
like I get grossed out. I had a while back. I had a moth hit me in my throat riding at night, and it was like baby bird sized moth, and you could feel the warm guts
Oh, dude.
dripping up the side of my neck. And I got inside and I lifted up my beard, and it was like yellow, like cheese curd looking
Yeah.
stuff. I was like, ugh.
Ugh.
Trying to clean my neck off.
Yeah, I hit a dragonfly on my neck one time. That hurt.
Yeah,
Luckily, I've never taken like a wasp to the eyeball or anything like that. You know,
I've had one sting me in the temple before. That sucked,
crazy.
but yeah.
Well, talking about some of the shows, Born Free, Mama Tried, have you built any bikes or done anything for any of those shows or
Nah,
that
man.
kind of your thing?
I mean, if someone invited me to one, I would do it. But like, I'm not on that radar.
Yeah.
Like, I'm a mom and pop shop kind of guy. So,
Well, how you got to have the time to do it too, you know.
Well-
It's always struck me, you know, you see these dudes build these show bikes and watching some of these videos and I mentioned it when I had Austin on. I was watching all the Blue Tide cast videos and stuff that he puts together.
yeah.
And they all took some big ride, and a lot of dudes were on show bikes. And this one guy had a problem with like his oil tank or something. Something broke, and what would have been a pretty minor fix was actually a nightmare just because of the way he had everything structured on the bike for like a show.
Right.
He's like, dude, I can't get to this screw. It took like 3 guys to get in there to get it tightened back on. And
So that's one of the things I hate the most about those, like the early 2000s box choppers, like, you know, a Big Dog or like American Iron Horse or what. They all look very similar. They have a super raked front end with a wide glide, you know, and like big fat rear tire, long skinny, you know, gas tank.
yeah, the giant back tire.
But everything's hidden on them. Everything's like quadruple Loctited down. Everything has like a little like chrome cap on it. Like it takes so long to work on anything on those things. It's almost like working on a bagger, you know. Like those are all things I try to stay away from. That, and they're so long that when you put them on your lift, like the ass end hangs off like a foot. So
Didn't think
you
about
got to
that.
like make these little extensions to put on your lift, or buy a fancy ass lift, not a Harbor Freight one like I have.
Yeah. Harbor Break, baby.
Dude.
Yeah. I guess it's been working, you know. knock on
The
wood.
Harbor Freight lifts have changed the motorcycle world for sure in the last 10 years, because everybody used to work on the floor. You
Yeah.
know, like you wouldn't see like somewhere at like the dojo, if you went up to it, you'd see like homemade ramps. Like 1 or 2 dudes would have like the good expensive lifts. But, you know, those things are like $3,000. They're
Yeah.
still like $3,000.
How
you
much
know?
is a Harbor Freight lift?
$500,
Oh,
something
yeah.
like that.
Oh, yeah.
Can't beat it.
And back when I got mine, like with the coupon, like you'd get them for like $3.99 or whatever.
That's
And
awesome.
So, yeah,
Yeah, I've got my Harley parked at my office. My boss has been cool enough to let me
Awesome.
keep it in the warehouse in the back.
That is pretty
Yeah.
rad that you can just park it back there.
And so I'll just kind of like towards the end of the day, you know, I'll kind of dip back there from time to time and I'm just kind of tinkering, you know.
Where do you
And,
work?
I work at it's Holt AV on 4th Avenue. It used to be right across from the old dojo.
Oh,
Or
okay.
the old dojo.
Yeah, the one that used to be over kind of towards University, the first dojo.
Yeah, I guess. Well, it's that little shop that was in right there on 4th Avenue is a
Yeah.
one-way.
Yeah, I
on
know what you're
28th
talking
Street,
about.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so I've been there for a long time. But we've got a garage where we keep all our truss and AV gear and stuff like that. And I cleaned out a little spot and parked my Harley in there. So you obviously you're here. I don't have anywhere off street to park it, so
No, that's perfect parking for a motorcycle, man.
Yeah.
You can just back right up to the curb and you can jam out when you're done.
yeah.
You know, it's good stuff.
But yeah, I've been laying on the floor a lot, just trying to learn how like things are hooked together. And my latest thing, I mentioned this to Austin too, was I ran into another guy that had a similar frame to mine, but he had like 10 over forks and his was all, chopped out. And the coolest thing is being able to see the frame where mine has an oil cooler mounted. And so I've been asking around, and sorry for anybody listening that's tired of me talking about this, but I was like, do I need this oil cooler? Are oil
Not
coolers?
really. For the kind of riding you're probably doing, no.
But if I took off and rode the, Timbuktu or something like that, at what point? And also here in the South, I mean, it gets pretty hot in the summertime.
It gets pretty hot. They're handy for situations like sitting in a traffic jam or sitting in traffic in general.
Yeah.
It helps keep your oil at a lower temperature. But really, if you're not moving, like it's not getting cooled either way.
Right.
True.
So, because the majority of Harleys are air cooled. So just that sitting and idling and the heat building up and building up and building up, that's when you can start having some issues, But more than likely, I've never run an oil cooler on a motorcycle.
Really? Okay.
Personally.
Well, that was my thing, because, man, it looks so, like, just taking it out, it's right under the forks.
Yeah.
And it cleans up that whole area and just makes it look cooler and being able to see the frame and all that stuff. And so I've been looking at oil coolers online, which are not cheap, smaller ones that I could try to hide.
Yeah.
And then mine is like 8 inches wide. And so there's
You got one
nowhere
of those
to put
rectangle ones, right?
Yeah,
That's like
yeah.
a Lockhart
It's
Phillips or something?
Yeah. Looks like a small radiator.
Yeah.
It looks like.
Those pretty old school. Yeah.
And so I've been trying to experiment with like either removing it or putting it somewhere else. And really the only place you could put it is kind of down towards the bottom, which I'm afraid, man, one rock hits it,
Yep.
then I'm gonna
That's
have a
exactly
major
why
leak.
it's up where it is.
Yes. So in your opinion,
in my opinion,
can I just take it off and not have it and not,
You're not gonna
melt
have
my
a
engine
problem.
or anything?
You
Okay.
can go walk around the dojo and see how many oil coolers you see.
Exactly. I was like, what's the deal? But you read online and all the forums are like, oh, you got to have the oil cooler, dude. You want that oil cooler.
Oh, my God.
So, okay. All
Yeah.
right. Put that to rest. I'm just going to chop it off.
I love the internet for information, and I hate the internet for information because there's so much bad information.
Well, everybody's
out
got an
there.
opinion.
Everybody's
So it's
got
hard
an
to.
opinion. It's like going into any kind of motorcycle forum and starting the oil debate.
Yes.
Is multi-viscosity better for Harleys? Is single viscosity better? Like, what grade do you guys run in this area? Well, we're below sea level, so blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
We feel like the gravity pull on this side of the earth is much less, so, we use less viscosity. It's just, oh, my gosh,
Well, I'm sure I'll have more questions coming
No,
up.
it's
in
all
the
good.
future.
Yeah, oil cooler, yank the fucker off and enjoy not having it hanging there like an ugly square nutsack.
Yeah. Looks ugly. Man, I got so many things I want to do. Like I said, I told myself over and over, once I got it running, I was just like, I'm just going to enjoy it, just ride it stock. And, it just parked in the back of my shop looking at it. I'm just like, I'm going to pull this off. I'm going to pull that off. So my latest thing, I noticed you have the same rear fender that I do on the bike you pulled up on. I want to cut that thing so bad and just chop it. I love the way like the Frank style fenders look.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I would try to recreate that. And I love the stock sissy bar that's on there. But I love that like 2-up king queen kind of Frank style look.
Right.
And try to get it as low as I can, just to give it that cool look without it looking like a dirt bike or something.
Right.
So yeah, that's my latest thing. I was like, do you have a grinder that I could borrow? At one point, I'm just going to take the backlight off and just saw it off.
There you go.
But I'm afraid I'm going to make it look like shit. So I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what happens.
You'll get past that. Metal's fairly forgiving, so
Well, dude. Well, appreciate you coming by and talking with us,
Yeah,
man. This was
absolutely,
cool, and kind of hearing about what you guys have going on. And
Yeah.
I guess you're just going to keep on rocking and rolling. And
Yeah, man. I have no plans to change anything in the future as it is right now. I mean, unless someone out there and decides they want to come turn wrenches, I've tried to hook in a few people, but
it would be cool to just kind of come, I don't know, buy a beer and just kind of learn some stuff. That's me. Is like just right now I'm like really fired up about motorcycles and stuff, but I don't know a whole lot about them. And so That's one of my fears is like being that dude. Like if we did take a trip with some other guys, being the guy that broke down.
You're the boat anchor.
And then not knowing how to solve the problem. It's like, fuck, sorry guys.
Well, that's what I mean. So
I don't know what I'm doing.
While some of us do go like individually ride, it's always good to ride with a group. It's safety numbers, all that kind of stuff.
Okay, so one thing we haven't talked about.
Right.
You go by Loaf.
Yeah, man.
Your name's Ken.
Yep.
But
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I was like, that's Loaf.
Yeah.
That's who.
The majority of people that know me, that is my nickname. Has been since I was 15 years.
wow.
So,
Okay. So what's the story behind the name?
So I had mentioned that I was a dirty little punk rock kid, right? So we had lived in this house, the 111 house, which was in the student ghetto in Gainesville. And it was like the punk rock house, like just a bunch of crazy motherfuckers lived there. And we were constantly like, so we were locals, but we're punk locals. We weren't part of the college or anything like that. But we took advantage of that stuff, like as far as, it having a younger scene and things like that.
Sure.
And we would always get into it like frat boys and shit like that. So where our house was not very far from the football stadium. So every football season, all these frat assholes would pull up and like park their stuff in front of our house. And we'd always tell them not to, that's where we park our stuff. Not that any of us had any cars. I think there was like one shitty ass van and like
I might need to park here later. So
but
I need you not to.
It's really, that was our hangout party spot, the front sidewalk, porch area, whatever. That's where we all always hung out. Anyways, so we had a habit of vandalizing cars. So after like 4 or 5 red squirrels one night, so a red squirrel, if you don't know, we would go donate plasma, get money, immediately go across the street and buy a bottle of Boone's Farm Mai Tai and a Colt 45 40 and mix them in a big gulp cup. And that was a red squirrel. And then you chug it and smoke a cigarette and you can almost not get up off the curb.
Oh, dude.
So, yeah, it was
okay.
The malt liquor days, man.
Yeah.
So, anyways.
Good old Colt.
So I had a bunch of those in me, and like these guys had been real dicks when they parked, and we decided to vandalize, which we were taking lugs off of wheels and like kicking in windshields and all sorts of fun stuff.
Oh, dang.
So I had to have a movement, and I went upstairs into my apartment and shit into a bag, and it was a big, like my forearm, like Loaf
style.
And I dropped it on the windshield of this dude's truck on the top. And apparently it was very stout and clay-like. So it sat there and just slowly moved down throughout the evening. But the main reason I'm nicknamed Loaf is because of the turd itself. All of the dudes there started calling me Loaf. It was Smiley before that, but then it was Loaf. And that stuck. It stuck big time.
It's cool that it's stuck even with you moving around. Usually when you move to a new city or get a new group or whatever, it's like you'll either find a new nickname, or I guess if you just introduce yourself as Loaf, then it's like, okay, this is Loaf.
Yeah, it wasn't something I gave a crap about at the time, and it carried around with me for so long. Even after I kind of got out of the punk scene and out of the metal scene and everything like that, I was already Loaf to everybody I knew.
Yeah.
So anytime I went anywhere and someone asked me who I was, they're like, "Hey, I'm Loaf. How's it going?" They'd be like, "Love?" I'm like, "No, Loaf, like bread."
Loaf.
So
the bread loaf.
It was. Sorry, it's kind of a gross story, but it is what it is.
Okay.
I dig it.
Yeah, that's my nickname.
I get it.
So I appreciate it.
Yeah, well, cool. Well, thanks for coming and humoring us and being part of this. It's been fun
it's all good.
talking motorcycles. So take it easy.